Hey there, how's it going, everybody? It is a beautiful Sunday today, and to commemorate this beautiful Sunday, I decided to take my Aston Martin out for a nice drive, but that's not why I'm making the video, because as you know, it is Sunday, and therefore it is Sunday AMA, or Sunday AMA, if you're like me and you don't have the time to say two words. This is where I answer your questions. I answer people on YouTube, on Twitter, on email, and it gives you a little bit more insight into who I am, what I do, and if you have any car questions, I try to answer them without making myself sound absolutely foolish. So, without further ado, let's get to the questions. Our first question comes to us from Twitter by at Brandon K.A. Truck. And Bradton. Okay, his name is Bradford. When taking apart interior trim, how do you know when to just pull and when there's a fastener? I don't really know. It's never a clear-cut case. Sometimes there is that one screw or one bolt that you don't see, and you have to account for that. So what I do is I just Google. I go the car model and then let's say door panel removal DIY, and just see what comes up, because I'm sure that you're not the first person to have this problem. So just Google. If you can't find it on Google, then there's most likely going to be a Haynes manual that tells you where all the clips are. Just make sure to be careful, be gentle. Sometimes, like in this car, if I take apart stuff, it kind of feels like it's going to break, but it's not. But on Japanese cars in the 90s, it feels like it's going to break because it is. It's really, really brittle plastic. So just be careful, and you should be fine. This one comes to us from at Dragon. He says, "Are C4 Vets good cars, and can they be made to be decent track cars?" I can't read today, apparently. C4 Vets are insane values for your performance dollar. So they have. I'm not sure what. I know they have an LS1. I know that this is a small block Chevy that has been made in one iteration or another for the last 50 to 60 years. So the aftermarket's huge for this car. It's a very good handling car, and you can find one. You can find a manual one for less than 10 grand. And I'm not sure you can say that for any other car that's, quote unquote exotic. It's not exactly the most exotic car, especially if you're in Florida, where every other sports car is a vet, but they're massive values. So they can be made to be decent track cars. Definitely, 100%. This one is from Valentin Santiago. He says, "Will you be attending Simply Clean 8 in Daytona Beach next Saturday?" I am not, because next Saturday I'm going on vacation, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to have videos for you guys, but unfortunately not. I want to do more meets. I want to do a meet. That would be nice. So ever since I came here, I said, when I get a more interesting car, I'm going to take it to meets, and that's going to be a goal of mine. So I'm not going to that one, but when I come back, I'm definitely going to have that as a priority of mine. This one is also on Twitter at Nofo Mariner. He says, "BMW E34 and E39 V8s, are they worth keeping or doing an LS swap? What should I look out for when buying one?" So I used to have an E39 540i 6-speed, and I really, really liked the car when it worked. That car was such a pain in the ass, because the engine, the M62 engine, that was in the E34 and E39 in different variations, they had an Achilles heel, and the Achilles heel was that they were made, the interior components, especially the timing chain guides, those were made out of really, really brittle plastic. And BMW had the great idea to tell their owners that, yeah, sure, you can change the oil every 10,000 miles. They had this new system where they said, let's have longer oil change intervals, and our engine can take it. What happens after a lease is returned is BMW no longer gives a shit. So when that happens, then it gets taken to its second owner and third owner and fourth owner. By this time, the car's telling them that they still have 10,000 miles left, but they're putting AutoZone oil in, they're missing their oil change intervals, and most likely that 10,000 mile oil change interval wasn't right to begin with. So this plastic is just getting beat to crap. And what you should look out for is that the timing chain guides have completely disintegrated. Like, you can take off the oil pan and you can see chunks of them. You can see plastic chunks on the bottom of the oil pan. You can, there's a issue with the oil pump. The bolts start backing themselves out. That's interesting. There's the common, leaks that you get from around the valve covers, the valley pan gasket, that kind of stuff, and the coolant system. The coolant system is made. It's BMW. They had really, really good engine designs, but their engineering as far as build quality was absolutely atrocious. So I got rid of my E39 540i, and I'm like, and the guy that bought it off me for next to, I bought it. I let it go for way under what it was actually worth had it have been running perfectly. But yeah, the guy that bought it from me, now he's selling it, and he can't wait to get rid of it because it's just it's basically haunted, So I would, as far as an LS swap,
turn right
if you could,
US 27 North.
Turn right onto US 27 North. I thought I shut you off. If you can pull off an LS swap and do it sort of on budget. I mean, I don't know what your budget is. I can't tell you what to spend on your car, but if you can do it, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that seems like a great idea. It basically makes it changes the exhaust note just a little bit, and but makes the car a lot more user friendly. No Full Mariner also asked, also, is it true you can't find a good breakfast sandwich like what we get in New York in Florida? I'm not really a breakfast sandwich guy, honestly, but Florida is not lacking food in any measure. I mean, I live sort of close to Orlando, and Orlando is, you can find anything within 5-10 minutes, anything you want at all. So yeah, just the same sort of food, same sort of like off the beaten path stuff that's here in droves. So yeah, you can definitely find a good breakfast sandwich. I really haven't looked for one, but I'm sure you could. Keith Helms on Twitter asks, are you going to put OE wheels on the S500 or go aftermarket? The dual spoke S55 63 AMG wheels look great on the 220. Yeah, they do. I think I'm going to go aftermarket just because I want to have something that doesn't look like it's been done a million times before. And I think I've narrowed down a wheel selection, I'll reveal that to you when I buy them. It's not going to be anything like super gaudy. It's not going to be, I'm not putting spinners on this thing. So it's going to be very, I think the car is elegant. I think it has just enough of an aggressive line that I can pull this off. But yeah, you'll see it soon enough. But I don't think I'm going to go OE. Unless these wheels look horrible, then yeah, I'm definitely going to go aftermarket. Eddie Lehman asks, did you do any price comparisons pre or post of windshield prices for the Aston? The $4,000 just seems insane. Yeah, it does seem insane. So I've gotten a few different quotes, and they're not really official quotes because I've heard from forums, and Doug told me that he had the windshield kind of appraised at $800 because when he got a rock chip, they fixed, like, he got a rock chip in the middle of the country somewhere, and on his cross country trip, and they fixed it for him, and they said if you were to replace the entire windshield, it'd be about $800. The bill that I got for $4,400 that my insurance covered, then that was way more than I thought. So that does seem insane to me. I don't know if they were trying to milk it just because it's an Aston Martin, but that seems excessive. All right, the next question is on email. It's from Alfie Rev. He says, hi, Freddie. I was wondering, what are your thoughts on the Cadillac Catera? I own the European version called the Opel Omega, and as a car person, I was wondering what your thoughts are on it. Yeah, okay. So, Cadillac Catera is a precursor to the 2003 Cadillac CTS-V in drivetrain. And I actually like this car a lot. It's a 220 horsepower V6 rear-wheel drive. They only made it in automatic here. I believe they made it in manual overseas, but it had an Achilles heel in that it was a really, really unreliable engine. And it didn't particularly make a lot of sense in that car because it wasn't a great handling car by any means. I sort of like it. I mean, if you look on Craigslist, you can find them all for super cheap. And they're all low mileage cars. They're like, 60 to 80,000 miles. That's because the engine has given up the ghost at least twice in its life. So if you could somehow make this car more reliable, if it has the same mounting points as a CTS, then it stands to reason that you could probably fit an LS in there. And if that's the case, then that would be a really good performance bargain. But then again, I have no idea if that even fits. I'm sure the engine bay is tight. So yeah, that's what I think about that. If you can make it manual, if you can make it a V8 or just a better V6, maybe even the Cadillac CTS V6, the later one, then that would make more sense. But I like the way the car looks. I was thinking about that for my first car when I was 18, and then got turned off by it because it was such an unreliable car from what I've read. And but there's no reason why, if you have some mechanical skill, you can't own one and drive one every day if you want to mod it. Next question comes to us from Jam Fu on email, and he says, "How's the truck search going? Did you narrow it down?" I think I did. I think since I need a crew cab and I need some sort of bed space and I need it to tow, I'm either going to go with a Chevy Avalanche or Escalade EXT. Can't find an Escalade, but there's plenty of Chevy Avalanches around. So I think that's where I'm going to go, unless somebody can sway me to like maybe a Silverado or a F-150. But I think the Avalanche makes the most sense because it's a big truck, but it's the most compact out of all the crew cab trucks, and it has the versatility, and it also comes in two-wheel drive, which is really good for towing. So and also, I mean, it's also has creature comforts and stuff. It's a nice car. So I think that's where I'm going to be going with that. Next question comes to us from Henry with an I, so maybe it's Henri, and his last name is sounds French, so it's Henri Papineau. He said, "I would love to see how you search and peruse Craigslist, eBay, etc. Maybe you've developed some tricks that you could share. If this has become a trade secret and you don't want to share it, I get it. I love your APiDA Online channel and watch every video." Thank you very much, Henri, or Henry, if I'm butchering that. So the way I look up Craigslist, it's not any different from the way anybody else would. But I use an aggregator like Search Tempest. Search Tempest is really, really good at, you basically look up cars for sale by owner, by dealer. You put your lowest and maximum price, and then it just gives you all the Craigslist listings within a certain mileage range of your area. So that is a really good way of sort of again aggregating all your Craigslist search criteria. Developing some tricks. The only tricks I would develop is that know what the market is, and what I do is I look on eBay as far as completed listings, and it's not only sold listings, because completed listings tells you what they sold for, but also if they didn't sell and what reason they didn't sell for. Well, they don't tell you what reason, but you can kind of deduce it, from if you want to be Sherlock Holmes about it. So if I'm looking for a car, let's say an Aston Martin V8 Vantage, go on eBay and I look up how much Vantages cost, how much they're asking, and where in the country they're asking that price. So if there's a difference between California cars and Texas cars, or California cars and New York cars, why that is, and are they more susceptible to rust? Do they have more mileage? Do they have more owners? Stuff like that. And then you go into color and trim packages and stuff like that. Then you can look at completed listings. You can see what they sold for, what they're and whether or not they the bids maxed out at a certain limit and they didn't hit the reserve. So if that's the case, then you can sort of gauge where the market's going. And then from there, I look on Craigslist, because Craigslist is most likely going to be not dealers, it's going to be private people. So with a private seller, sometimes they don't know what the market is like, or maybe they overshoot it. and you can see if somebody has been trying to sell a car for a month. You know, you give them a call. It says, or like you look up a listing and it says that this car has been available for a month, or it's been posted a month ago, and you give them a call and they said, yeah, it's still available. Then there's a reason for that. Either they want too much money and you can talk them down, or it's something, I don't know, it's something else and they have a sentimental value attached to it. But usually stuff like that is where you can find really good deals, because people can when cars are on the market for a long time, at some point people just want to get rid of them. So you go there with a cash offer, you know, with cash in hand, you know, show them the cash, and usually you can strike up a deal. So that's what I do. It's not really any trade secrets. It's not anything special. But just know what price you're willing to pay for a car, and if it has any issues, like assume that there's going to be issues with Craigslist sellers, but you know, do your due diligence and kind of cross shop between eBay and Craigslist, and then I think you'll have a better time with it. Next question comes to us from Alberto Lemus. He says, "Hey Tavarish, longtime reader from Toronto." Oh, thank you. In the near future, I'll be moving to a denser area of our city. So I won't be needing a daily driver anymore. I want something for the weekends that can haul a medium-sized dog, groceries, and my wife. In that order. I'm looking at keeping it on the inexpensive side, so I've started looking at a Mini Cooper S from 05 to 08. Now I know this isn't the most reliable car out there, so I've saved up some money when the inevitable things go bad. Are there any other cars that I should consider? If you're looking at a daily driver that can get you around with your kids, and you're looking at a Mini Cooper S, I would honestly look at an EP3 Civic Si hatch, because it's sort of the same amount of power, and you can put they're manual. They didn't come automatic. They're like 03 to 06, or it might be 02 to 06. I used to have one. I used to have an 03. And that one has a 6-speed swapped in it from an Acura RSX Type S. And that was a really good sort of daily driver. It had around 160-ish horsepower, which is good enough. And you can do a tune on it, get it a little bit higher. What I really like about that EP3 Civic is that you can really ring it out. I mean, the red line is somewhere around 7,000, and you can see 7,000 daily in that car, and it won't give you any hiccups. It has a K20 engine, K20A3, which is not the best one, but it'll get you in the K20 club, which is the engine to get if you have a Honda. So yeah, I'd start to look at that. It's a little bit quirky. It has the shifter like sort of up here. I don't know if you can see it. Like, it would be literally right here. I'm doing like T-Rex arms. Yeah, the shifter is up here, and it's an interesting experience. There's a ton of room in that car. You can easily fit 4 adults with some luggage in that car, and I'm not sure you can say the same thing with a Mini. The Mini is probably looks a little bit better, but that reliability issue, especially with the timing, they have a problem with their timing, either timing gears, timing chains, or something gets out of time, and the engine basically blows up. So it happens a lot, so especially these years. So I would look at a Civic Si, even the later Civic Si's, like the I believe the FG Coupe. I could be wrong, but the later ones, like the 07 up, those are really good values, like 200 horsepower and naturally aspirated. They sound great. You don't want to put too much exhaust on it, because then it's going to sound like a droney mess. But yeah, that's probably what I'd do. Next question comes to us from Peter. He says, "I am from Bulgaria, working as a software developer, and I'm looking for a new daily driver. I was wondering if the Mercedes S500 is for me. My daily driver is a Mercedes CLK 230 compressor now, and I'm thinking of buying an S-Class, so here are my questions. What is the key moments to watch for when going for an S500? I think he means like common problems. What are the common problems that you can see when you're viewing the car if you don't have the opportunity to drive it? You definitely should drive it. It's a very complicated car to begin with, and when you add time to the equation, it doesn't really help. So what I would do is make a list of the common problems. You should go on Ben's World or MB forums. I believe I always space on this. Somebody's gonna somebody will tell me the correct URL, but I'll have those in the description. But yeah, they have an S-Class, a W220 S-Class encyclopedia, and it tells you all the common issues that could happen with a car, and there are a lot of common issues. But what I would do is I would make sure that the vent in the front isn't blocked. There's a vent in the engine bay, and that isn't blocked by any debris. So the debris is what happens is the vent gets backed up and starts to rain. Rain goes into the car, and then that floods the entire interior, and you don't want that. Another point of issue with that car is the electrical system. So make sure everything works. Everything works like it's supposed to. Make sure that the Airmatic or ABC suspension. I would stay away from ABC if I were you. If you want it to be sort of reliable and cost effective. Airmatic is relatively easy to maintain as long as all the components are in serviceable condition, meaning that they're not like salt corroded. Because it's really hard to get lines off, get those fittings off. Even though the lines themselves are plastic, it's hard to get those fittings off when it's just seized on with salt. So make sure it's not rusted. Make sure the compressor is good. Make sure the car rises and lowers within 30 to 90 seconds of you pressing the button, which sounds like a long time, but that's what Mercedes recommends. And I think that should be good. The car does tell you a lot about what's wrong with it in the infotainment, in the center display. So if there are any issues, it will tell you. You're going to have Christmas tree lights and stuff. So get one that's been looked after. Maybe somebody that wants to, it's too much car for them, or they're getting older, or something like that. That would be a good buy. But as far as performance and luxury value, you really can't beat it at that price. I'm not sure what they're trading for in Bulgaria. But here it's like, yeah, you'll be hard pressed to find something better. And I think it's going to be our last question. It comes from us. This is going to be our last question because my brain ain't working too good right now. Comes to us from Manuel Luce on email. He says, "Hey dude, really appreciate your content. I started getting into car." Okay, I'm gonna skip a little bit. Thank you very well. Thank you very much, Manuel. He says, "I was wondering what your thoughts are on teaching yourself to work on cars. My initial thought process for going with a Toyota truck was the odds of me ruining it are..." Okay, so this is a long question. And let's see. All right, so he's basically asking, he says, "Just wondering what your take is on buying a shit box just to learn how to fix it up." That is great. So everybody should do that. Everybody should buy a complete shitbox just to see how they can learn to fix it up. Just to see how it works. If it breaks, who cares? My first car was a Nissan Maxima. And I learned a lot on that car. And it wasn't exactly cheap for me because I was 18 or 19. And the car cost me $6,000. And $6,000 was a lot of money. I had to work for a year and then still borrow money from my parents to fund it. Anyone looking at that car now would probably call it a shitbox because it's a cheap car. It's an old car. It was sort of reliable, but you do learn a lot, and there is that there's a certain essence that it doesn't matter if you break something, and that should translate into every car. Like, 'cause even this car, it's the windshield costs $4,400, and the engine is 20,000 or 30,000. But you shouldn't be afraid to break something because that's how you learn. Okay, it might cost you a little bit more money. It'll be an inconvenience or something at some point, and you'll cross that bridge when you get there. But you shouldn't be scared of taking stuff apart. So that's I'm not sure if he was asking what you should get as a well, he has a Toyota truck, and Toyota truck, especially if it has rust like he's talking about, like it needs body work. That's a really good place to start. So you can learn how to do mechanical stuff. You can learn how to do body work. And a Toyota truck, it will never die. I mean, the stuff around it, the body panels and whatever, that can all entropy can take care of that. But that car will go on forever and ever. and you can learn a lot in the process. So I think anybody that wants to get into cars, they should have like a cheap shit box, just like an old Honda Civic or some small small crappy car that you don't really care about, but you can form a bond with it, and you can learn a lot along the way. And then those skills you can adapt to cars that you actually do care about and that do carry a larger price tag, and then you'll have some sort of confidence to tackle those projects head on. So I think that's my answer for that. All right, guys, that is a wrap on today's Sunday of May. It was a lot of fun. Thank you, everybody that asked me questions this week. If you'd like to ask me a question, anything, it could be any car-related question, personal questions. Why does my hair look like a Brillo pad? That's perfectly fine. You can email me at asktavarish@gmail.com, and you can tweet me at APiDA Online, and I'll be sure to answer it in next week's segment. But for now, I'm going to enjoy this nice day, these nice rolling hills. I know a lot of you think that Florida doesn't have hills, but it does. So I'm going to enjoy this nice day with my nice car, and I'll see you again next time.